Hi everyone, it's Master Ben, and welcome back to the continuation of the Getting Ready for 323 series. So, in today's video, we're going to be discussing what are the correct weapons to be using. And I'm joined here today with Drac from the Frontier Community server.
Hi everyone.
Today, we're going to be discussing what are the best pistols of 323. This is going to be a continuation of the mini-series, sort of discussing what are the key changes and components to 323. Other guns will follow in future videos. And of course, if you have any feedback, feel free to let us know in the comments below. This list has been aimed at PvPers. Now, what this means is we are ranking the guns in regards to what we think is the best for PvP. However, for the most case, this instantly carries over to PvE gameplay as well. But we'll always caveat if there's any reasons why that doesn't always take place.
Like Ben said, some weapons do have a couple of caveats only because they have a different effect in PvE.
And with that, let's begin with the pistols, and we'll start off with the Arclight.
So let's talk the Arclight. Arclight is probably the best pistol in the verse right now. That is a very hot take because some people like the Coda, but the Arclight has an infinite range as well as it has a very high fire rate. So with a big mag being it very strong, it hits almost as hard as a main weapon. And for this weapon, I would strongly put it in the A tier with no caveats.
Straight off the back, we've got an A tier. Just go straight for it. And once again, this is a really nice weapon because you can buy it in the PU. There'll be a few weapons in here which you can't actually buy in the PU. We'll make that really clear. But yeah, Arclight can't go wrong with. However, if you want a bit of a meme in your life, you can always go with the big single hitter, the Coda.
Yes, the Coda is great. It just has that glorious feel of a hand cannon. I personally don't like it as much, but I have been using it a little bit more lately, especially in our more PvP focused events. It will 1 to 2 shot, depending on where you hit, almost anybody, even in heavy armor. So it's very useful. The only problem you have with it is sometimes it is very hard to land your shots because it is a big bullet moving really slow. I would put this in the B tier, not because it's worse than the Arclight, but because it just a little harder to hit your shots, meaning that if you're not as skilled, then it becomes a little harder to use.
For me, I think the perfect time to use a Coda is after you've gone to an Orison bar, absolutely loaded up on beers, and then head straight to a bunker with just a Coda. What could possibly go wrong in that scenario? It just seems like the perfect hip-firing weapon out there. Said no one ever. Okay. Next up, we have the LH86.
So the LH86 is my second A tier weapon. Reason being, it has an automatic fire now. It's only automatic. It's also ballistic. So it takes the shortcomings that if you're running a full laser load of main weapons, you still can run a ballistic weapon and it can still shred almost as fast as a weapon we'll talk about in the later of this series. So it's very good as just a absolute shredding weapon. Not great for the last shot if you need to just finish someone that you've already downed, but still very good if you have ran out of weapon ammo on your mains. This is a tier.
And I suppose it's really important to sort of touch on that difference between the laser and ballistic weapons. I mean, especially with shields in the game, which I suppose actually shields may be less of a problem at times now with master modes if people forget to put their ship into combat mode when they're on the ground. But yeah, the main benefit really is ballistics can actually shoot through shields, whereas a laser weapon is just going to get hung up on the shields and not do any damage to anyone who may be, let's say, hiding in landing gear underneath their ship.
Also, ballistics have a slightly higher chance to cause injury, so even if you don't finish your opponent, they probably are really hurting now.
Yeah, that's really true. So following on from this, we have the S38.
So S38, I love the looks of it. It is a decent weapon for what it is. I'm unfortunately going to have to put it in the D tier as just don't really use it. The only reason I would say to have it on your hip even is if you just need what is I would call as a Punisher finishing weapon. You've already knocked someone out. You don't want to waste a bunch of bullets on your main weapon, so you pull that out just to finish them off. That's its only use case, and it's not even great for that.
However, if you're going to the combat catwalk, it is by far the best looking sidearm in this game, I think at least.
Yes, I will not deny that it just looks amazing. I like its aesthetics more than even the Coda but unfortunately, unless you're doing a role play or a visual thing, it's not good in PvP. So, but it is usable in PvE. It's just why to use something that's slightly less effective when you have other things that are better.
Now, speaking of the most visually attractive, or in this case, unattractive pistol in the game, the Salvo Frag.
Ah, the salvo frag. The problem with the salvo frag is that it is a very niche shotgun style weapon that doesn't really work as a shotgun. Is going to be put in the C tier because some people can use it. It's not bad, but it also has a really weird effect that it will knock people down, even though at this current moment in 23, knockdown effects are supposed to be gone. So it's very weird. It can be used. Its charge takes a little too long to really make it usable, whereas you could have finished anybody in half the time with almost any other weapon.
It doesn't seem to make sense at all, really, does it? It's got an effect which shouldn't be there. It's a sidearm, so you'd assume you're pulling this out as a finisher, or if for whatever reason your main weapons are out of ammunition. However, it then has a charge time which would be longer than doing a reload on another gun. Doesn't seem to have a place in an ecosystem.
Lore-wise of it, it's great, but yeah, it kind of falls flat.
So lore-wise, this is the one that fires frozen bullets, right?
Yes, the real quick lore information. The way it's supposed to work is it freezes the bullet, and then upon firing, the shell splits and makes into basically a shrapnel. So that's how it works in lore. If you only real quick click it, it doesn't actually freeze it. So the longer you hold the fire, the longer it would freeze is how it's supposed to work. Doesn't exactly work in practicality.
Which is a shame because it actually sounds super cool. Just doesn't actually work. Oh well.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that sound cool but may not work, the Ubrev.
Actually, surprisingly, I will say, in my testing the Ubrov, I really enjoyed it. It was very enjoyable to use. They have made a lot of modifications to it. I'm going to put this in the B tier. It has 10 rounds in its mag, and it will kill in 4 to 5 shots if you hit them. It does have a little bit of the same problems that the Coda has, in that as long as you hit, it will do really good. But if you don't hit, you kind of get very bad effects. It's very nice, actually. So it's definitely in the B tier for me.
And in regards to its shock effect, is that definitely sticking around, or is this something that's also going to be taken away, such as the Azkatav, which I believe still has it?
As of right now, it does have its shock effect, which brings us to probably our very first caveat of in PvE, you might not want to use it because it can spread to other people. So if you had a guard next to someone you're shooting and you didn't want to actually hit that guard, you will actually hit that guard, causing you to get a crime stat.
Yeah, that's pretty fundamental. So don't go shooting this near your hostage, because the hostage will no longer be a bargaining tool at that point. It will just be a body bag. Bit of a disadvantage there. But it can be quite a fun thing to run around with if you can sort of shock a large group of people. However, in reality, just a spray and pray from something else would probably be better with a group than this thing. So yeah, I definitely understand the B tier.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to use. It's visually really good. It's just, it doesn't quite make it into the A tier just because of its max size right now.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening to this list and thinking you're sort of missing out one of the most fundamental pistols in the game. And I feel like actually the list quite right now is quite rigged. It should have an S tier. This is, of course, due to the WoW Blaster existing. Now, this is the most overpowered pistol because it can be used in Armistice Zones, therefore allowing you to eliminate any enemies you want, providing the enemy is air.
Yeah, so the WoW Blaster, greatest gun in the game. It won't give you a crime stat. It won't cause you any problems. The only problem you got really with it is it's not really good at finishing anybody.
It's really
unless
bad.
You're in Arena Commander, and it's Triggerfish Day.
Providing the enemy is bleeding out, the timer is sub 10 seconds. WoW Blaster is the gun to pick out. You cannot go wrong with it. Apart from that, I'd give it a miss, honestly. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't find myself picking up unless I'm on a long journey and I really want to annoy my pilot.
That's actually a very good reason for the WoW Blaster. So there we have it. That is currently all of the pistols that are within 323. I think there's some really exciting ones also coming on the horizon. We've got some of the taser pistols. However, until they actually come into the game, we're not going to be talking about them. But something that's really important to mention is the fact that pistols actually now have a place within 323. I think back in the day, they were very easy to look at and forget, maybe instead put on a tracked beam and a med gun. However, now we're sort of in a place where they definitely have a use case.
Yeah, pistols now are not just a backup weapon. They're not quite as powerful as your best main weapons, but they're still usable. Some of the weapons we'll talk about later, pistols are actually better than them.
So if you could only bring one pistol with you into any fight, what would it be?
Arclight. I'm going to have to go Arclight primarily because it has a great damage and it has the range of 1200 meters that allows you to still reach out and touch somebody no matter what's going on.
There we have it, folks. The Arclight it is. So with that, folks, just want to say thank you everyone for listening and watching. I suppose, you've seen the tier list go up. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any feedback for us, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you think everything we've been saying is an utter lie and totally wrong, let us know, but do it in a polite manner, please. And yeah, we will see you in the next one. I want to say a huge thank you to Drac for all the testing and work he's put into this video. So yeah, see you guys soon. Thanks so much, Drac.
No problem.